Welcome to the Immigrant Dilemma podcast. So today we have with us Stephen Baboon, or should I call you Marie-Claude?
Hey, either one I accept. Nobody calls me Stephen anymore. Everybody calls me Marie-Claude.
Oh my God.
So it's up to you, honestly.
Okay, so today for the podcast, I'll call you Stephen for the podcast.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. So we're going to talk basically about your immigrant journey. When did you leave Haiti? Where did you go? So do you want to talk about your experience as well?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Miami, Florida. And at the age of 2, my parents, they were fresh out of college, they were working, but life was really tough. It was really tough. They had 2 kids. And so they're like, no, donc on peut pas, they can't really support, these kids here. So ils ont décidé, quand j'avais 2 ans, they moved back to Haiti. Mais j'ai fait toute ma vie en Haïti. J'ai grandi en Haïti. I was born and raised there. I was raised there. I went to school there until college. Okay. Donc j'ai vraiment fait tout mes études primaires, secondaires, high school, stuff like that in Haiti. And for college, I went to Washington D.C. I went to American University, and I did 4 years in Washington D.C. I studied film and media arts. And then after, DC was really good because it was the first time I was on my own. And actually, I was really on my own. I had no one in DC. Sometimes, Haitians leave the island to go to school and, they have their circles, stuff like that. They have people they know, their family. But for me, this was I was completely on my own. And it was a beautiful experience because there I could really explore who I am without any fear of judgment or critique. Being queer in Haitian is not easy. So when I went to DC, that was a great time for me to really explore myself. And then I graduated 2017, and then I moved to Miami for a year, and then after a year, I moved to New York for my maîtrise for my grad school. And I just graduated in July 2020 at Parsons.
Congrats.
Thanks. I know. For me, I thought, okay, I'm going to get my MFA and then I'm going to get a job. But it's so hard now. So it's like, well. And now here, I'm in New York. And I'm based in New York. And I travel for work from time to time. And I've definitely jumped around.
And how do you feel like now? Do you feel like you're staying in New York just short term or long term? Or do you feel like you lost few things when you immigrated and you want to get it back or something? How do you feel right now with immigration?
Right. I love New York a lot. I've been in New York for it's gonna be 3 years now, and I love it. As being an artist, and really, that's where the opportunities are. But I love it. I love New York. I love my Haitian community. So it's like I can have a piece of home, and I can be in this really electric city. But I do miss Haiti. I'm not gonna lie. I do miss my home, especially when things like these political unrest are happening. Sometimes. It sounds morbid, but sometimes I wish I was home. I wish I was not at a distance hearing these things. I wish I was present for these things. If that makes any sense. Part of me misses being home, misses navigating home, and I miss just the energy of being home and what that means. But I don't know. For now, I'm happy. But I think I know Haiti's gonna call me long term for something for sure. But for now, I think I'm good. But I never like to be too comfortable. For me, Anik, you can ask me, Stephen, okay, what are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing in a month? I don't know. I just go with the flow and I let God lead, honestly.
Yeah, you take things step by step, and then you feel like once you get too comfortable, it's because you learn everything you needed and you want to go through another journey, right?
That's exactly it. When I graduated in DC, and almost all my friends stayed there, and everybody's like, Steven, stay in DC. But I felt too comfortable, and I felt too bored. So I'm like, bye. So I dipped.
You need to explore.
Yeah.
So yeah. So right now, for example, like, is Marie-Claude helping you to stay connected to the Haitian roots, or is it really like just exploring something new in your life?
Yeah, that's a very beautiful question. Marie-Claude was created in 2015. Actually, I used to do these little videos on Snapchat, but I never really posted them on Instagram. It's not until the quarantine I felt really depressed. I was in a very dark place. You know, I missed my family. You know, my depression was kicking in. I was anxious. You know, mes parents étaient en Haïti, mon frère est en Floride, ma famille. You know, I'm just like, wow, this is really. And you know, with the lockdown, and I was finishing school, and everything went online, so I didn't even have my community that I could see for comfort. And so I decided one day, I'm like, you know what, Steven, like, you should post one of these micro videos on TikTok. And I did one day during lockdown, during quarantine, and the rest was history. And she grew wings and flew. So for me, Marie-Claude came out of a very depressed state. I was in she kind of saved my life. I always say Marie-Claude saved my life because, you know, because whenever I'm feeling down, I know I can be that character and make videos and make other people laugh, but also most importantly, make myself laugh. You know, it was like therapy. And so, and so through Marie-Claude, I felt more closer to home because I was revisiting how my mom acts, or I was revisiting our habits and how our society is and how our society functions. And so that made me feel at home. And plus all the beautiful people who comment and laugh and interact with me, that also made me feel I was more connected to home.
Wow, that's amazing to know that. Not only like it's how can I say that? It's really not the first time I would hear people saying social media helped them a lot with mental health, and like it's not an easy situation to go to. It's it could be very difficult, especially if you're alone in the country. You don't have your community like you mentioned, and then you kind of created an online community. So like sometimes social media has like a huge impact on your life, and people I feel like don't understand that. I totally can connect with you on that side. Like
you said it perfectly.
You feel like you're making an impact in your life, and then also you're bringing back your roots, like you mentioned. You're connecting to it. So speaking of any, for example, like, do you have any funny stories you would want to share today? Like, for example, when you had like a cultural clash once you immigrated in all the places that you were. You want to share with us like one?
Sure, let me think. Actually, I know one off the bat because that was big for me. I remember I was in my freshman year of college. I just got into college, and I think it was a math class, was it? And she said, you know, us Haitians, like when we say hi, we kiss, you know, on the cheek. And oh my God, I had a group of Latina friends, and when we would see each other in class, we would kiss because, you know, it's kind of the same as Haitian culture. You know, we kiss and we hug. Et puis petite, I don't remember, my Latina friends were sitting in a circle with two other American girls.
Okay.
Et puis tête moi pas là, so I'm like, come to class. I'm like, hey everyone, m'a salué my friend, m'a salué my other friend. Et puis petite, m'parle pour m'a salué Américain. Ella, she jumped, like, she like, you know, Ella, she jumped like I was gonna like, and I was like, oh my God, like, I have to check myself. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, and I hugged her instead. I didn't want to be rude. But I was like, oh my God, meti fia ma ke vin vale mwi petit. Everyone, my Latina friends were laughing. They were like, oh my God, Steven, you
They understood the class.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God, I forgot. So that, I feel like that's, there are many stories, but that's the one that stands out to me the most.
Wow, she should have jumped really
Oh my God, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to like make you feel uncomfortable. Because, you know, you don't know the level of comfort, and you don't know cultural cues and how different cultures, you know, interact. So for me, I was like, mes amis, ma ke mourir nan pays blanc petit.
No, but it's true. It's like it still happens to me. Like even now, sometimes I completely forget. Or when I go back to Haiti, now I don't give the kiss.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh, you're rude. You should say hi."
Yes.
I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah, and it's weird because Anik is the opposite. Sometimes after spending so much time in the States and I come to Haiti,
Yeah,
when I see people, I say hi, like I wave hi everyone,
exactly.
and
They're like, "You're so rude."
yeah, and everybody's giving you the side eye, like, "Non, tu vas pas venir me saluer?" Like, oh, sorry.
Especially
Funny.
here in Montreal, we have 2 kisses. We do 2, so I'm always like doing 2, and then the second one, everybody like turned their head, and I'm like, "Oh, there's another one."
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, really? Like, no, I totally can get that. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
funny. And also, like, for example, you use a lot of different names in your videos. That would be the last question of Marie-Claude.
Of course, ask away, girl.
How does your friend feels like if they have a name that you use in your videos? Like, do they feel like they're targeted or?
Yeah, I actually don't use my friends' names.
Okay, so you're part of that.
I like use like I know a Stacy. You know, I use a lot of Stacy in my videos. I know a Stacy. I know a Jenny. I know whoever I'm using. I know one, but not to say they're like close to me. But sometimes I mean, a lot of the Stacy, like when I reference Stacy in my video, a lot of people with that name laugh and like their friends tag them like, "Oh, Stacy got so off my Claude," you know. So I'm glad they take it lighthearted. I never want people to feel attacked or offended. You know, it's just part of the comedy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the people with the names I use, thankfully, have a lighthearted attitude about it. So yeah, maybe I should use one of my friends' name. I'll see how they feel.
I think it would be funnier if you do that.
I know. But it's funny because when I make a video, my friends know. Like, if I make a video, they're like, Steven, that video is about me for sure. You know? So it's like...
You push the name.
Yeah, it's like, you're not fooling anyone. We know you're talking about my friend Ariel, my friend Natalia, or my friend, you know, my real friend. So it's pretty funny.
Oh, wow. So I guess after this podcast, next video is going to be on Anik.
Yeah. Watch out, Anik.
I need to watch out now.
But yeah.
Okay, oh my God, that's so funny. So right now, how about your identity? Like, how do you feel about yourself, and also like the mixture? Because you're half Syrian, or is it like half Syrian, right? Okay. So how do you feel about that? Like the combination of it? Like, do you try to connect with both cultures or more with Haiti because you mostly grew up there?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And a lot of my art has to do with how do I reconcile being from 2 diverse cultural identities, right? Plus I'm queer, you know, plus add queerness to the mix. It's like, oh my gosh, like who the fuck am I? Sorry to be cursing, I didn't mean to curse. But as a child, you know, I really, at an early age, I remember thinking these thoughts like, who am I? You know, like, I'm not Haitian enough, I'm not Syrian enough, and plus I'm queer, so I'm not fully accepted in the Haitian space, I'm not fully accepted in the Syrian space because of whatever. Maybe I don't speak Arabic well, maybe I don't quote unquote look Haitian, or maybe because I have a different way I think. So I always felt like I was in between. I was like in the ocean. Je laisse les vagues me porter, pas vrai? So sometimes I go to Haiti, sometimes I go to Syria, sometimes I go nowhere. And so what I call this like a fluid identity, like an in-between identity. You're in between these 2 cultures that you don't fully belong to, you know, you're not fully anchored to one or the other. And at first when I was, you know, I was like, oh my God, this sucks. Like, I really want to identify with one thing. I want to be one thing. I want to be in one community. But growing up, I found this fluidity of my identity to be so beautiful. You know, I love being, you know, I accept it. I'm like, you know, I love not being in a strict cultural parameter. I love not being enough of both of them because I can be like this chameleon, right? But yeah, so to go back, but that's just a disclaimer, but to go back to your question, do I feel more Haitian? Do I feel more Syrian? I feel I am fully Haitian, I'm fully Syrian, I'm fully both, and I'm proud of it. But I connect more naturally to my Haitian culture identity because naturally, mes parents ont grandi en Haïti, ma famille en Haïti, mes amis. I went to school there, all my community is there, my role models, the people I love, the food, the music, the history, the culture. So I was more immersed, I was more anchored in my Haitian experience, my Haitian culture identity. So I definitely feel closer to my Haitian roots, but not to say that my Syrian roots aren't as important as my Haitian roots. But
yeah, that's a very good answer. I like that. It's like the mixture of it. So you accepted it, and then you were also proud of it, especially as you mentioned, Syrian, Haitian, queer. So like it's all of you. You cannot mention like you have 10% queer and then 50% Haitian. Like you can't say that. Yeah.
No, it's all of you. And it's like this idea of something called diasporic loneliness, you know. It's a big thing in the diaspora, like, you know, that you're first generation, let's say Haitian, and you live in Canada. You know, you're not Haitian enough, you're not Canadian enough, right? You know, like it's like you have to assimilate, but you know, you can't fully assimilate, and you're always thinking about home, and you know, it's interesting phenomenon, I would say.
It is very interesting. And in one of my podcasts actually, and I had written articles on that before, about like mentioning like nowhere is home, basically. Or you decide now here is home. It's like so like how do you deal with this? Are you you mentioned you're not the type, you don't want to fit in the mold, you don't want to do that, but like some people react differently. They react like, okay, I want to fit in that and I'm going to choose it and I will continue with that identity. So now if you go with the exploring identity, do you have any tips you would want to share with the listeners? Like how do you not get lost, basically? Because it's very easy to get lost at a certain point, and you don't know how to face things, and you wanna connect so much to something or get a hold on something when you feel very down. Like, do you have any tips or any way?
Yeah, I mean, maybe two things I would say is that being a human and having I mean, identity is such a complex thing. It's not like you can, you know, identity, you know, people, we try as humans with words to explain our identity, to explain who we are, but we really can't fully. We are human, we're limitless. Like we are everything and nothing at the same time. Like we are always changing too, you know? Like Steven and Anik today is not Steven and Anik in a minute, in 2 minutes, in a year, in 5 years, you know? So it's like I would tell people, embrace the idea that you are fluid and you're always evolving and always changing. When I started accepting that, I'm fluid, every day I will change, every day I'll have a different perspective on who I am, I started to feel better about my identity. I started to feel like it's not enough pressure. And secondly, what I would tell people, don't listen to people. People love to tell you who you are. People love to tell you who you're not. Like people love to really construct your identity for you. Like that's bullshit. Do not listen to people. You are who you are, and if you're comfortable with whatever you identify as, you know, that's great. I'm not saying like I'm gonna wake up morning and I'm Nigerian. You know what I'm saying? But like, if somebody's like, "Oh no, you're not Haitian enough," but your whole life is Haiti, you know, like don't listen to people that really are trying to break you down. Listen to yourself and explore yourself and trust yourself that you will be at peace with whatever identity you're kind of grappling with.
Yeah, these are great tips. And also like I like what you mentioned about people wanting to construct your identity, because we're so used to that by the book concept, and like I guess they don't want to feel lost. They want to know what you are so they can know how to act with you. As soon as you're different, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I said A, B, so they can get lost. So that's why they really want to put you in a mold. It's for themselves actually. So sometimes it's like a selfish act. So
exactly, like you say, it's more for them. People always want to figure people out to make themselves feel comfortable. People are not comfortable with what they can't explain. And I feel that's so sad that people want to impose their things on you to make themselves feel comfortable. Like you said, it's selfish. It's not human.
Yeah. It's selfish. So it's like, it's for us to really affirm our identity. It's an act of self-love and self-care. So we need to learn how to stay grounded, because other people would want us to be in the category they want us to be.
Exactly.
So we have to be super strong and powerful. So like, do you feel every day when you wake up, you're like, okay, I'm strong, I'm going to affirm myself today? Is that how you feel?
Well, that's a very good question. I have ups and downs. I struggle a lot with mental issues and kind of sometimes I'm gonna be very open with you, and I'm fine talking about it, but sometimes self-image issues, like the perception of myself, like because I'm always grappling with identity, and I feel like the traumas of my childhood are now just coming up in my adulthood, and I'm facing these issues, and I'm developing these issues. Some days I wake up, I think I'm on the top of the world. Like, I love myself, I'm confident, I'm positive, I'm happy. But some days I wake up, I'm like, I'm pas sous ça, like I really want to shut the world down. Like I'm really hard on myself some days. So it's like life, it's a constant battle, but something that's never going to change. Even though I feel good one day, I feel bad the other day, I'm always myself. The things that are me and in me will never change. So yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's like, it's part of life, and it's okay to feel like this. It's definitely okay to feel like, okay, today I don't want to do much. I just want to focus on myself. I want to take care of myself. It's okay to think about ourselves. That part is not necessarily selfish, but it depends culturally speaking as well. Like in Haiti, if you're like, oh, I'm going to take care of myself today, everybody will be like, what?
I think the concept of self-care and mental issue in Haiti is a little, we still need to hash that out, and what that means.
Yeah. And speaking of, for example, you mentioned you don't see yourself, like, do you feel like now you could be an example for other people that might be like might connect with you? Like lately we spoke a lot about like representation. So do you feel like, even though like your page is like funny pages, but like in the end, in the long run, it could be very serious. You are doing an amazing work, and definitely people can connect with you, and you can help them in representation. Like, do you think about
thanks so much for saying that. In my comedy and in my art, I think I show more representations within Haitian society. I never say I want to be an example or a model. I just say I live my life as authentic as possible. And if somebody can connect with my art, my videos, my life, and they find comfort in what I'm doing, for me, that's more important. I'm never trying, like, it's great. Like, I mean, it's great. I have a lot of kids, young queer kids message me all the time saying, hey, like, we look up to you. Thank you for being true to yourself and for representing the queer community in Haiti and being proud of your queerness. So that feels good, because I always want, for me, I think the youth is the more important for me. La jeunesse, for me, I'm so passionate about working with the youth, because as a child, I think I never had a queer role model to look up to. I always had to hide these things and not talk about it. You know how homophobic,
especially in their culture.
And so I always tell myself, I want to be the person I never had as a child. I need that role model for myself that I never had, and so that's how I navigate my life. And if people can resonate with that, that makes me very happy and satisfied,
Yeah, that's amazing. So by default, you will be doing that. It's like you're just being true to yourself, authentic, but by default, you're definitely doing this little work on the side without knowing it.
Thank you for saying that. Okay, it's people like you who bring that up to my attention, because when I do things, it's not like I have that in the back of my mind. I'm just existing, So, yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
That's amazing. You're welcome. So now let's go to your art. Do you have any projects on your artsy side that you want to share with us today? Or like, because I checked all your Instagram pages and I love your art. I think it's very like authentic, and I love the colors you often use. So it's very like, we have a lot of the it's like we have the Caribbean vibe, but at the same time not fully Caribbean, and I love that concept.
Yeah.
So
I'm a full-time artist. Like, I do not have a 9-to-5. I don't have another job. Art is my full-time job. So I'm working on 40 projects at the time to pay my rent, you know, at the end of the month, kind of thing. But I love it. It's exciting. Sometimes it's frustrating, obviously, because it'd be nice to have a steady income, but it's so rewarding to live as an artist and attempt to sustain yourself financially. But I always have I love everything I work on. I actually shot Michael Bourne on Monday for his EP that he released called Melanin. That was such a fun shoot. I created this beautiful custom installation for Michael so we can interact in the space. And you know, Melanin, his EP is about, you know, bridging the Haitian sound with the African diaspora sound. And Melanin is about colors, about black, brown, all of these beautiful individuals who have long been marginalized by society, as you know, BLM movement, the beautiful BLM movement, you know, finally taking this big momentum in the world. And you know, this EP is a great representation of the POC community, and I was so honored to have been a part of creating the visuals for that.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see that.
It's actually, I posted it on my Instagram, so it's out. His EP is out. I'm in a residency in Mexico City, but because of COVID, everything is virtual. An art residency, so I'm working on a couple projects. So yeah, I'm like bouncing around from project to project. So
that's amazing. You like the exploring and the challenges as well. It brings you challenge all the time. Like every time a project, it's different and it's a new challenge. Exactly.
It definitely is a new challenge, and no project is ever the same. So it's always new and it's refreshing.
And in your art, do you have, for example, like you want to work with your roots more with Haitian people, or you just open want to work?
Well, my work is rooted in the Haitian community. All my work is I mostly photograph Haitians in the community. I talk about social issues like queerness, the Haitian queer community. I talk about the multicultural community in Haiti, especially my experience being Haitian Syrian. I confront the issues of religion, but I explore religions other than Catholicism, like Haitian and Islam, because you know Catholicism is the main religion there, and other religions are persecuted. You know, so I work a lot with marginalized and unrepresented communities in Haiti, because I feel growing up I was also a little marginalized, so I understand this urge to feel valued and visible. So I love to work within my communities to conceptualize, confront, and talk about these quote unquote taboo issues or these hard issues that we may or may not be ready to confront within our society.
Yeah, that's so true. May or may not, because sometimes you have to be ready to talk about it, to share the story. So today, do you feel like you're valued in society?
You know, growing up, I always said I want to make an imprint in Haiti. I want to make an imprint in my community. I love Haiti so much. I love my community to death. I'm always thinking about Haiti. I'm always researching. That's my practice. That's my artistic practice. That's a good question. If I feel valued, you know, I don't know if that's something I think about, you know? Yeah, I do feel valued.
Compared to before, for example. Compared to before.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's a tough question, but I do feel valued, and I felt valued before, but in a different way. You know, now I'm valued in a different way. But for me, the work, it's not to feel valued. The work is to change and open dialogue and create different spaces and create progress and change. For me, that's the most important thing.
That's amazing. And do you want to share any other tips or any quote unquote things that help you to go through this identity journey, the path of like your identity? Like, do you want to share anything?
Like what do you mean, like specifically?
Specifically, what I mean, it's like, do you have any tips, for example, in your identity journey as an immigrant, or also when you immigrated, like often to help you adjust in the country, to feel grounded with your identity, like more in that
thank
sense?
You for clarifying. Now I understand the question. Yeah, you know what? It feels like everywhere I go, I find my Haitian circle. Like in DC, I found my tribe. I found a couple of Haitian, amazing lifelong friends. If they're listening, they know who they are. In Miami, in New York, you find your circle. So for me, I find the Haitian community. If I'm feeling homesick, I know I can go there. I can talk to my friends. I can eat Haitian food. I can listen to music. Music plays a huge part in how if I'm feeling homesick, or if I'm feeling, if I want to feel grounded and at home again, music is huge, Anik, for me. Music, listen to and I feel good, But yeah, I don't know. I feel like what brings me comfort is I know that Haiti will always be there. So it's not like I'm gone forever. I can go there. So that when I think about that gives me a lot of comfort, even though, I don't know when my next trip will be, but yeah.
Are you the type of diaspora that just listen to compas?
Yeah, I love a lot of music. I listen to compas, I listen to zouk, I listen to racine, I listen to voodoo rock, I listen to rabodai, literally anything. I think I love compas. I don't want to get hate for this, but I think compas is my least favorite Haitian genre of music. There's so many other beautiful genres that I love more, like racine, and the sounds of Lam and Boukman, and the sounds of like Paul Beauboin. Like for me, that's I love that. I love compas, don't get me wrong, but la and these street gritty sounds, for me, that's what really takes me back.
Yeah, it's good that you're very diverse in your music of choice, especially like on the Haitian music side. But the reason I asked that question is because in Montreal we do have that type of Haitian diaspora that just listen to compas.
Yeah, they play Kawimi and they're like stuck.
And that's it from 2005, and that's it. They're stuck there.
I mean, look how beautiful Haitian music is evolving. You have people like Canis, Niska, who's clashing racine with hip hop. You have Paul Beauboin who's doing rock with voodoo. You have Michael Beauboin who's doing electronic, and
it's getting diverse.
You have Naika, oh my god, Naika, who's doing pop Haitian. It's just so exciting to me. Like, it's great. So I love that kind of innovation within Haitian music. Yeah.
That's amazing. So now the last question to finish our amazing podcast. You mentioned that you're always connecting to your community, and then you will always want to stay rooted. So do you think sometimes on how you can give back, not just to the community outside of Haiti, but specifically to Haiti? Because I feel like the diaspora, or in a good Creole, les Blancs, we can definitely give back. We also have a lot of knowledge. We learned so many things and a lot of innovation, like you were saying, to give back to the community. So do you think about that often?
I do. And I also, it saddens me to think about how a lot of valuable Haitians, thinkers, scholars, musicians leave, outside. Yeah. And, for whatever reason, they fled oppression, or, they went to college and they felt more comfortable and they stayed. And so I always think about, like, how can I, help Haiti while I'm so far away? And, what I can say is that for me, through my art, is a way to help the community, the mainstream consciousness, the cultural dialogues. These are as important as, helping to build a school. they have equal weight. But what I would say is that I really encourage the people in Haitians in the diaspora to really support grassroots organizations, these small organizations on the ground in Haiti. There are so many amazing human rights, financial organization, think tanks, like all of that. Like for me, these organizations that are on the ground in Haiti within the community, for me, that's the most important thing you can do. At least for now, that's what that's my advice, is to donate to these organizations. Or you donate to Red Cross, UNICEF, or you go to a mission trip and build a fucking house. Like, you're not even an architect. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are more valuable than like mission trips and like USAID and the United Nations BS that people feed you. So for me, grassroots organizations are the key or the heart of the progress within Haiti, because there are a lot of Haitians that dedicated their lives to bettering the community, and they dedicated their life. They're like, I'm gonna be in Haiti, I'm gonna live there, that's my destiny. So let's support our thinkers, our amazing people on the ground. Let's support their organizations and their mission. So that, for me, that's something we can do.
Yeah, it's an amazing perspective, especially like helping the people on the ground, because they're there. They're underground, like you mentioned. It's like they're facing the challenges every day, and the diaspora decided to leave, which is okay, it's their choice, but they're not facing these challenges every day, and then we tend to forget that a lot once we leave the country. That's an amazing perspective. And also, like, think long term, if I can add something to what you mentioned. Instead of like just building the school, for example, this is just short term, and then after there are no teachers in the school, and then it was built for nothing.
Yeah, that's true. And be aware of, I know we're going on a tangent, but last thing, I talk a lot, I'm so sorry, but last thing is that, I don't believe in these missionary trips. I don't believe in the United Nations. I mean, I think these are huge corporations, and it's just, we have to be very careful how we help.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's so true. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast today, and I really hope you enjoyed it.
I had a great conversation with you. I'm feeling inspired, actually. I'm feeling motivated after this talk, so thank you.
I'm waiting on the Annick.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.